Did you listen to the Hot Breakfast this morning? Here's what you missed.
The anti-corruption agenda. Whoa, that's deep. To advance the anti-corruption agenda. Joining us live in the studios is the two Michaels.
Yeah, Mike and Mike.
Mike and Michael in the house. Michael Ntere is the Deputy Director and Head of ICT at the EACC. And Michael Obiando is Director Shared Services at the ICT Authority. Michael and Michael, welcome to Kevin Jeff.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well done, guys. Well done. So we're talking about technology and adaptation and how it applies to Kenya today. Because let's face it, man, corruption is everywhere in the world, but there are some places where it's just off the chains. Michael and Tere, yes. What are we doing to? We know corruption will never end. Yes. Let's face it. Yes. It will never end. Yes. But what are we doing to cut it short, to cut it back?
Well, Jeff, thank you so much, and we are honored for you to invite us here. As a country, we really need to step up in terms of enforcing corruption, in terms of creating mechanisms that will allow us to prevent corruption from happening. Not only prevention, but also enforcing the law. So as an organization, we are mandated to basically do law enforcement, prevention, and promotion of ethics. We have had quite some successes in this field. And you know, Jeff, it's interesting that very many people don't actually know. But EACC has actually been able to recover quite a number of assets that have been corruptly acquired. Over the last 4 years, for instance, we've been able to recover almost 24 billion shillings worth of money
in assets.
Yes.
We're talking about houses, cars, money, bank accounts.
Yes, yes. This is money that has been recovered in terms of land that was corruptly acquired, in terms of money that has been seized, and so on and so forth. And one of the other largest things that people don't know is that we do a lot of disruptions. We disrupt corruption networks. And over the last 4 years, the same way, we have actually been able to disrupt over 40 billion shillings from being stolen from the public coffers. This is through proactive investigations, being able to disrupt these corruption networks before they do that. And that's where technology comes in. We're here because we're talking about technology today. And technology has the capabilities of not only enforcing and fighting and enabling us to fight corruption, but also helping us disrupt these corruption networks. And also in terms of the larger government at play, if we're able to automate a lot of our government services, we'll be able to increase efficiencies in government that will allow us to even improve the fight against corruption.
This disruption of networks, obviously you get to know who the individuals are and which departments they're in. Is there anything that's done to them, like a investigation to their background to find out about their work so that you can repossess more things?
Yes. We do a lot of investigations when, again, we are a law enforcement agency. So over and above, there's a whole process that goes about in terms of investigating, in terms of finding out who the culprits are. And we're also working in tandem with the DPP, where when our cases are completed, we're taken to the DPP for them to be able to go on with the process. So there's a lot that is going on.
Michael, how come nobody's talked about it? How come you don't talk about your successes? We're here about the bad news, the doom and the gloom.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, once more to be in this show. Thank you, Nick. Yes, first and foremost, let me say that for us, and because I work in government, I'll say that we provide the infrastructure that is necessary for my colleague here to be able to operate. And therefore, as to why we would not or probably do have to talk about it is, I guess, in the process of investigation, my friend will tell you that some things need to be silent for you to make progress. So I think for us is really to provide an enabling environment to ensure that whatever needs to be done by my colleague at the EACC is made easier. And with technology, you're able to get much more than you would without technology. So that then if someone was using a system to do what they have to do every day, it would be easy to, for them to run their investigations as and when they require, online and remotely, as opposed to having to do it in the old way where you have to physically go, and it takes much more time and effort to make results. So I guess from my perspective, with technology coming into play, it makes EACC and other investigative agencies to do their work much easier.
Do we have the technology? Do we have the capability at the ICT Authority?
From a technology perspective, yes. That's why I'm just trying to say EACC does what they do best. We provide the technology to help them do this, and we do have quite a bit. So I'll put it this way. So in government, there's a lot that's happening in trying to, bridge the digital divide. There's certain projects that are happening right now. I'm sure you've probably heard about them. Rollout of 100,000 kilometers of fiber, 52% of which is being done by government. So what's the impact of this? When you look at even the 25,000 public Wi-Fi hotspots we want to do and roll out for public use, what that does is that it exposes the general public to get access to internet, which then in turn gives them access to government services. So what that then means to the minority is that instead of having to go to a government office to queue and probably get middlemen who want to benefit from that process, they get access to that government service from where it is that they are, and in some cases for free. Now that then mitigates or reduces the impact of, having to meet on a one-to-one to get a service. It's not specific to government, it could be even for private sector. So then some of these efforts then help to reduce or mitigate corruption.
There's been a lot of people online with one scam or the other, invest here, do this here, where people's money is taken. Are we making progress in bringing an end to these? Like the point is digital circles. You remember that you invest, you save 20 every day, then one day you wake up and that all their digital footprint is gone.
I could say something about that, Nick. Some of the things that have been done in government, and one of the major, in my view, a major milestone was the creation of the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner. Because then with the ODPC, now anyone doing such a business has to register as either data collector or processor. And then now it makes it easier for us to then track and know for anyone who's doing this kind of business in the event that something goes wrong, you are able then to track down what it is that you have been doing, and even for that to happen, you're also protecting people's data. Yeah. So I think in the process of doing that, it makes it easy to identify who's doing what. There are other services that have been rolled out which I think could add value, not just in what you're saying, but even in other services where people are doing these things online, like the National Public Key Infrastructure. So it's an encryption service where we are now getting government transactions to be done in a way that you identify yourself digitally, so that then you reduce the occurrence of scam. So this is one of those very new services that are still at the nascent stages, but I believe will make a great impact in this country as we use it more and more. Yeah. It's already been used by some banks in the private sector. In government, we've just started rolling it out in a few of the organizations, and we believe there'll be, with better uptake in this, there'll be a heightened reduction in corruption cases in Kenya.
But they're still on the rise. We still hear scandals each and every day, whether it's from community prison or wherever it is, where they originate from. They're still there. I mean, these criminals seem to be 2 steps ahead, Michael.
The problem with this country is that we don't publicize the positive stories. We always talk about the negative stories. But there are a lot of positive stories in terms of the successes that have been garnered. But maybe to circle back into that particular question, one of the issues also that we face as Kenya is people do not report these cases. People suffer in silence in a way that you will get scammed, you will be silent, you will not report this particular issue. And that's why we want to encourage Kenyans. When you find something, talk about it, report it. And the government has a lot of mechanisms where how you can actually report not only corruption, but other crimes, so that people can know, because information is power. Some of these investigative agencies will suffer because we don't have that information. Jeff, where you sit, you might actually have some information that we don't have because we don't have that omnipresence. But with encouraging people to report, when you find these things, and there are very many avenues of reporting. For instance, as EACC, we have an anonymous reporting system. These are some of the latest technologies that we're using to ensure that we keep your information anonymous. You can actually report without identifying who you are, identifying your location, identifying who you are, so that you give us the relevant information to enable us to do our work. And many other agencies are embracing this. You'll find KRA, for instance, they have an anonymous reporting tool that you can use to report on tax evaders. So by leveraging some of these technologies, we want to encourage Kenyans to report about issues, to give us information and intelligence. And Jeff, sometimes actually prevention is better than cure, and we all know this. So sometimes these large corruption cases, it's better for us to prevent them from happening. And how do we prevent them from happening? You might be sitting in situations where you actually know what is happening, and you can help us or help other investigative agencies to prevent that issue from happening, as opposed to calling us later when the scandal has already broken, when money has already been lost. Then now you call us to do the cleanup. So it's good to prevent.
Is there a way, because that's one of the reasons someone would be afraid to to anonymously call, because yes, I've called you anonymously, but behind the scenes there, you know, it's so and so who has shared this information. Is that information inaccessible by anyone, no matter how intelligent and system beating they are? Otherwise, then
yes, and now that's where technology comes in, because technology, thanks to modern technology, right now, for instance, even WhatsApp, for instance, does end-to-end encryption, where even the service vendor themselves can't tell what you're writing in your message. I can call you electronically, and it's an encrypted message. So technology has a very big role to play in protecting the identities of the people who are giving us information, protecting the information itself, and protecting the whole chain, in a way that now we are able to safeguard not only the people giving us this information, but also the information itself. Because remember, also, information is power in itself. So technology has a very big role to play in that. And there are very many technologies. They have this blockchain nowadays that helps us, create encrypted ways of, communicating and storing information.
And also, and what happens if, so with this, you just use it to block crime, because you can't really use that as evidence in court, because if someone is accused of something, and I've accused you of something, and you collected this information anonymously, how do you now incriminate, let's say, Michael, without me being able to come to court because I'm anonymous?
Okay, the way
But that system is still being worked on. Which Michael? Who's the guilty one of the two?
So, Nick, that's an interesting question. There are various ways of presenting cases in court. You have cases where even in international courts you have seen that sometimes you can actually have anonymous witnesses. People whose identity has been hidden. That's where the Witness Protection Agency comes in, because they can be able to create a witness that their identity is hidden from people who might want to hold them. So the Witness Protection Agency, for instance, has been a pivotal pillar in this fight, not only against corruption, but also other major crimes, because they're able to protect the witnesses from revealing their identity, to create a safe space for them to give the evidence they need.
I guess at the end of the day, it's about trust. When people don't trust the system in many cases. Yeah. How do you build that trust, Michael?
Well, and that is why I also alluded to this MPKR thing, for example, because if, and I go back to the question that he was asking, because MPKR is something really around trust, so that if you then are using a system that you're going to anonymously put in the data to report corruption, and you're going to use such a system to then identify you digitally without even having to know your name and all other issues, that whole chain of identification is sacred and managed very separately, to the extent that even EACC does not probably need to know who you are until it is very necessary to do so. So that then anyone who is making such a report using such kind of systems would have the comfort of knowing that they're protected at least just by digital identity. And that is a globally trusted system. It's not just something we're discussing in Kenya. So that even digitally identified in Kenya, and with the MPKR I was talking about, then it is well known that regardless, as long as this digital identity is used to identify me globally, it is a trusted system. And the MPKR system I talked about is globally accepted, and being that it is a system that you're using here, it is one of the things that can be used. I think the other thing, Jeff, trust is two-way. Nick talked about people who might be wanting to report a matter, but probably what they're reporting is not true. How then do you identify whether it's true or not, and the issues of trust? And that's where the justice system comes in, and there's things that need to be done. So I guess technology can come in to reduce or mitigate risk. Technology can come in to help identify where something, can be validated. But then I guess there needs to be a handshake between the justice system and how we use technology to aid in that process.
Now, before we get to the justice system and some of these processes, procurement is a big, I don't know how many bigs I can add in this sentence, but a big, huge avenue for privilege, corruption. There's so many county employees who just go from rags to riches, and they have an explained wealth, and nothing really seems to be done to them either while they're in office or when they exit. But we all know you can't become that rich no matter what business you do. I know some software for the whole globe.
There's a lot of effort to make procurement an e-procurement process, because a lot of the problems we sometimes have with procurement is a manual nature and interaction in that process. So for organizations and even private sector where people have embraced online e-procurement processes, you then reduce the human-to-human touch, so that everything that you're doing is based on a process. So you are validating and submitting things based on what it is that's required. So that at the end of the day, the only time that you then get to engage between you and its procuring entities at the point that either you have won or lost, because you're just getting to know, what your fate is. I guess the manual nature sometimes of such processes is what then creates a problem that is then difficult to manage. And I just go back to say that in technology, there's a lot we can do to reduce and mitigate some of these things. And yes, it is a reality, but then there's a lot that can be done to mitigate and reduce.
Are the players in this sector open to everything going online, or they still want paper? Because even land, it's taken so many years to digitalize it. But that's where also the people in the system take advantage. Because I hear like one case was given. Yeah. A relative of mine died in '94. They have a house. They've been collecting rent. Yeah. So I hear the guys who do this. They check out death certificates and IDs and what's registered to that property. And if the thing's been idle since X years ago, they just forge a sale agreement and transfer to someone else. So you come, they get it back. You know, you have to go to court. You have a mention or hearing. That's another 7-8 years. Yeah. So
the manual nature of procurement is what creates what we are doing that area in terms of being able to hide behind the long-term days of the work. It's able to automate the procurement cycle from end to end and create linkages with relevant agencies. For instance, when you're doing a public procurement, you need visa company involved. The company needs to have been registered. The company needs to abide by certain laws, like we do KRA compliant, we tax compliant. Now, you can visualize a system where you have a solution that when people are doing procurement itself, that system or that process is able to link automatically with the KRA system to see whether this person is tax compliant, to link with the BRS system to see whether this person is actually registered. Maybe Jeff and Nick Clinton were not registered 2 days ago, and has just gone and tender what application. You ask, why was Nick and Jeff limited? What is the history of that entity? What is the tax records of this entity? And so the ambiguity and the paperwork involved is what creates those loopholes for corruption. So automation has a way of creating transparent systems that are able to be audited. Remember, this is public money. As government is one of the largest spenders. Public money needs to be audited shilling by shilling. Imagine, visualize a way where we can track our budget from the time it is paid your tax, to the time it is budgeted for, to the time it is spent in these public procurements. If we are able to create accountability mechanism where the citizen can actually go on and track how the money is spent. It's your money. It's our money. If we can create these systems that are able to keep that transparency in nature, then we will alleviate some of these problems we face.
And yet there was still a scandal a few years ago, the National Youth Service. For millions and hundreds of millions. We've had even two, NYS1 and NYS2. And there was a system called IFMIS, which is supposed to be foolproof. And yet, they passed that. I guess it's not a perfect world, right? But still, there are some people there who try to circumvent, who go around the system to steal. True. And it's true, just like you say, and I like what how you started it. Nothing is perfect, it's not 100%. And not all systems are foolproof. But we also learn from mistakes sometimes, and the ifness of that is not the ifness that you're using today. So there's a lot of things that have changed over time, sometimes from certain things that happen. There's a learning curve, and day by day some of these things are made, tight and better to use than they were the previous day. And repeat again, it's not 100% foolproof, but then there's been a lot of investment that has gone into things to make it even better, more secure, and some of those loopholes have then been, started to prevent similar occurrences, or reduce the magnitude of occurrence that such a thing happening. So, there's a time when we were brainstorming for the new number, and just the other day I heard Dr. Shalim, the new president, say that we're going to have another document that's almost like it's almost like Uduma number, where all our details will be in one to help Michael, why are you hiding? Please say to Mike. Which Michael will tell us about this new digital identity that combines our DL, all our
data and what everything. We can call it to do a number for reference.
Alright, so what I'll say now is, I know we, as government, busy to, working on a number of initiatives to make life easier for the nation. Now this program says that when we have an initiative to work on a unique identifier that will then identify everyone in this country with a unique identifier. This is before we even talk about the number of a physical device. There's a digital identification group. And once that one is done, the decision on how that integrates with whether it's an ID or Uduma and things like that will take shape. The most important thing now is just working on the criticality of identification.
It's almost like what's on for the years that you're given social security. So like when you're born, for instance, you have 0018, then you go to primary school 0018. Yes. If you're tracking your documents in 0018, you go to university. Like, okay. So I guess it's just now a lot of people don't understand how these IT things work. Yeah. So when you say we are social an identifier, they think,
Okay, well, what did happen to your video number? I think the best person to answer that is the other Michael.
I might say the printer that's printing the passports got spoiled at that time, so you can't print anymore. Okay, at least identifier of the referee they used to play on.
Listen, the other thing is arrests are hardly ever made, or if they are made, we never hear about them. And that's why people think that people get away with crime. People get away with it because there are no sound arrests. They will arrest the small fish and leave the bigger fish. Or maybe people get arrested but media doesn't cover it. They make you have exposure because media don't cover it. You know, there's this analogy that they say when a dog bites a man, that's no news. But when a man bites a dog, that's headline. That's exactly what's happening.
Unless you're in China.
The worst case, it's like so I want to challenge media. Call us with statistics. Call us and we give you the achievements that we have done. And remember, when we cover achievements on the umbrella investments, we need what people want to hear. What people never hear about the prevention of corruption. As I mentioned, disruption of corruption networks. We can only able to disrupt over 40 billion shillings in the last 4 years. That's 10 billion shillings per year. That's big news. Being able to educate children. Corruption is about an ethics and moral nature. One of our biggest mandates is on prevention, education. Being able to educate the public, being able to educate and train the public on some of these things they need to talk about in terms of how do we inculcate the moral values, the good moral values to our children. Remember, sometimes our generation, maybe, I don't know whether it's best, but we need to inculcate these values from our children, right from the beginning all the way to the end, the education system. We need to inculcate good moral values, good ways of operating, good citizens of this country, so that the children grow up with it. You know, for instance, I remember, to give a personal example, we were going with my kids on the road on traffic lights. When they see a red light, I cannot jump it because when I jump it, the kid will ask, what are you doing? Why are you jumping red light? You see, these are the kind of values we want to instill in a way that somebody knows that it is actually morally wrong to do that. It is morally wrong to do that and to make others suffer because we're good. So these are some of the values that we need to teach and we need to enforce. And we do a lot of that. We need education. We do a lot of public education in this field to create this, to inculcate values into our society.
Yeah, but speaking of traffic lights, how come nobody obeys them other than you? So you just go
say I just go down there. You know the way to ask. So do you have to do that for you?
I like to follow that too.
Nobody follows the rules. That's the problem. That's the problem with our society. We need to create that. We need to change that narrative. We need to be able to
be good persons. Be a brother's keeper. Be able to follow the basic rules. That it's a competitive world out there, yes. But if all of us follow just the basic rules of operations, we'll be our brother's keepers. We'll be able to have enough money to build hospitals, to build roads, to do
all the good things we see in developed countries when we visit.
But Jeff, I also think, in this country, if I was to look at statistics, for example, and see how we can use technology in trying to address some of these things, 65.7% million Kenyans, or not even Kenyans, mobile subscription in Kenya as at December 2022 stood at 65.7 million. Now, I know you're asking yourself a question, how is it that it's above the Kenyan population? Because people like Nick Odhiambo here have 2 phones.
No, he has 4.
Oh, my God, that's an exception. Yes, he has 4 devices, not phones. Oh, devices, yes. And the funny thing here, there are 2 Michaels and there are 2 Odhiambos. So be very careful. So the thing, what I'm trying to drive at here is that with those numbers, then we ask ourselves a question: how then do we change some of these things? And I think a lot of it has to do with this device we call the mobile phone. Because some of the things we talk about here may be utopia to some people. But a lot of us are using this device, not just to trade, it's to talk, it's our way of life. How then do we do solutions that are ready on mobile that can help change the narrative? Today, it's no longer even Generation Z. I don't know what generation we are in, but they rely on this thing. So it's way beyond just the traffic light. It's maybe as a family you're eating dinner and everyone is here. So how then do you use this device to change that narrative around corruption? What are we doing with this device to help change and mold our kids to understand that technology can be used in the proper way that then can help reduce some of these things that then create corruption? So I think, in my view, that technology, especially around mobile device solutions, is a way to go for the future. Because today our kids don't even understand what a traffic light is.
Yeah.
Whether it's red or green, those are just colors in the rainbow.
Correct.
So I think there's an opportunity here that we as a country, both in private and public sector, need to see how to adopt to change that narrative.
I guess the bottom line, Michael, is a question: are we winning the war against corruption?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
So you can say that comfortably.
I can say that confidently. Without fear or contradiction, yes, we are. And Jeff, I want to challenge you. Call us on GK Live. Tell us to come and tell your story. And we will
come today evening.
The issue is about we need to work, all of us together. We need to work together in terms of this fight. Because the fight cannot be for us alone. Remember, we are an entity, yes, but we are not everywhere. We need the will and power of everyone, each and every one of us. The media has a very big role to play because you tell the story. You reach millions and millions of Kenyans. You can tell the story. Don't focus so much on the negativity. Focus also on some of the positive stories. Focus on also, not only even in corruption, in all the other aspects of life. There are so many good, sometimes we watch news also, we get a little depressed. When somebody watches news, to be very honest, you get depressed because the first story is about, I don't know, forest, God is being found in a forest. Second news is about, I don't know what. So, sleeping like a good story, because that whole day, I'm sure Kenya won a medal, breaking world records. That's an amazing feat.
That's the place for sport. We started a captivating story, which is Shakahola. Then we talk about that, and then sport.
No, sure. The world record should be the first because it's a global achievement. These are people who get recognition globally at a scale that we can't even fathom here in Kenya. So really the stories that it's starting well, but let's also build the narrative. Let's help us win this war.
We will help you. But maybe you can give us 1 or 2 stories, because sometimes I tell Jeff about what the ARA does, that assets recovery authority. Here was one of those success stories where someone tried to beat the system, we caught him, he accepted and said, kabla minimiliki familia yangu ndio tunafanya, wacha niwarudishie.
We recovered land for the University of Nairobi. It's on Kilimani, just around here Kilimani, 2 acres, 3 acres. You can imagine how 2 acres in Kilimani, where that is. Second story of the on Mombasa Road, we recovered land for the meteorological department. That land has very much been used to build low-cost housing. That is land that was in private hands. We recovered it, it's now being used for social good. These are the stories that, yes, it was a byline, as you said, it was a byline at the end. Then UCC recovers land for meteorological department, and it has been surrendered back to government. Full story. but you haven't seen the social impact. Remember that land was, let me not say the map, because I'm not sure about the acreage, but it was a big, it was almost 20, 30, 40 acres. Wow. So, but it's a big piece of land. That land is being used now to build low-cost housing. That is land that will have gone into the hands of private developers. They will have built houses, they will have sold to middle-income, high-income areas, they will have made the money. This is public land.
I have a question.
Yes.
So this low-cost housing is being done by the government of Kenya?
No comment on that.
So why do they need
Land was recovered. It has been used for social good.
Were there any arrests made?
For that one, it was a recovery. So it must be the cases are still ongoing. Yes, some cases are still ongoing. You know, we work in collaboration with the judiciary. Our cases still have to go through the judicial process. These processes are long, and all of us know this. We live in Kenya, so the processes are long. So eventually they will come. But Jeff, I want to challenge you. Please invite us to JK Live. We will come with all the statistics and we will show you real life cases.
I want to see arrests. I want to see people who
the day you arrest them, you send us our top video.
I will take you up on that.
But the other thing I wanted to say about the question you asked Jeff, are we winning the war? Right. I think we are winning because with the use of technology, there's increased transparency. And out of that, I guess media can benefit out of that, because then a lot is happening. Nowadays, in some places, you don't even need a news camera, because the phone is your news camera. You have free agents out there taking photos and sending them to you. And out of that, then you can help this process as media to bring forth. And I think that has been happening, and we've seen that adding value out of just a simple video that a Kenyan somewhere has taken. It has gone somewhere live, and the agencies have taken note of that and taken action. So I think we are winning the war. Transparency has become more of a thing today because of these devices, and therefore making it a bit easier and more efficient to curb crime. Then again, I keep repeating, it cannot be finished. It is not 100% foolproof, but we are winning the war compared to the way things were before.
Yeah. The other thing is embracing emerging technologies. Like, for instance, drones or AI, and now everyone's talking about artificial intelligence. Are you doing that? Are you embracing the technologies?
Yes. As they say, if you don't change, change will change you. Technology can actually offer. We must, as a government, we must embrace technology. We must use big data, for instance. I mentioned about disruption of corruption networks. Big data plays a very big role in this. We're able to, mine data from government agencies, from the information we receive, to create these trends, to create crime hotspots that are able to use technology to do this. And government is at the forefront of trying to embrace new tech in trying to alleviate some of the challenges you're facing. Blockchain, for instance, is an interesting technology that, for instance, if it was incorporated in, let's say, the Ministry of Lands, where we can be able to create a blockchain of land records, that is and those are some of the initiatives that are being discussed and seen how to be incorporated in this war.
And for instance, the CCTV cameras that we see all over town, that flash or don't flash or sometimes flash, do those really work?
Yes. Jeff, let me say something, and let me use a different analogy.
Go on.
At the ICT Authority, we do an annual conference in Diani in April every year. And there's, I remember doing a talk, and it's really touching on AI, but it's also to bring the reality of AI. AI is something that, you need to teach, and it learns over time. And I mentioned in this thing that we were in a conference with certain people who were in Europe, and we had this argument about the whether it's really realistic to have AI systems running. And of course, it depends on the scenario. And in this particular case, we had a camera that were trying to look at different things. And my view to them was that I think the environment is a big thing that we need to consider when looking at AI. And they disagreed with me, and I asked them, you know what you do? This is a camera you have, and because when you're on an online conference, there's a camera facing you. And they had this app then that can do facial recognition, and they did it for themselves, and it was successful. So when then I turned the camera on to myself, of course using your own, and do you know what the camera said? Object not found.
Oh.
So what am I trying to say, Jeff? Tint could be one thing, but then there you are. And the same thing, look at it in a judicial system. We could use AI. Probably look at me and say, look, in a court of law, this guy is accused of stealing, potatoes or something, and you say, no. From what I know, this guy, and the way I see and I recognize his face, he's probably can steal fish, but not chicken. You see, there's certain stereotypes that then are built in a system. So it is how we can work on getting these things to learn without bias. And the bit about bias is very important. And I say these things because AI is not as easy as it is just been said. There's a lot of applications that can work for it, and others may be difficult to adopt. But I think that definitely is one of the things we can do as a country to try and see how we can move forward. So that if tomorrow one of these Michaels is then recognized by a camera, you don't use a name to define that, look, this guy must be the suspect. You don't use the face to define stereotypes. But then there needs to be something else that says because of A, B, C, D and where he was last night, then he's a possible culprit. So I think the adoption of it is easier said than done. It's a difficult journey. There are certain safeguards that also need to be taken care of. But it is one of those things that over time could be considered.
Yeah.
And maybe circling back also to the example you've used for the cameras. For instance, technology is where some of these areas can come to play. For instance, and dream with me, assuming those cameras were able to detect minor traffic offenses, and you're able to not only be, when, for instance, you overspeed by, let's say, 10, 20 kilometers an hour, instead of you being stopped by a policeman, why do people give bribes to those policemen? Because you hate what? The inconvenience of doing what? Appearing in court, being summoned, spending a whole day in court, for you to pay a fine of what? 20,000 shillings? Correct?
Yeah.
Now, imagine if we're able to use technology to create a way where you can get a digital ticket, a digital fine. Comes to your phone, you are caught over speeding, this is the evidence, this is the digital evidence, this is your face, this is your car, this is you. Do you accept? Yes or no? Yes. You pay the fine electronically using mobile money, and you're good to go. Will you pay a policeman on the road because of that?
No. I see Nick checking his M-Pesa balance.
I'm thinking about the police who are going to object to this, because I know this idea has been floated for a while.
Yes. And it's happening in the Middle East.
It is.
In Dubai.
In Dubai.
That's true.
That is exactly. In
That's
Dubai,
exactly.
no policeman will ever stop you and arrest you because of breaking any offense. You skip a light. At the end of the day, you find your fine. You're fined. You go park in the wrong place, you're fined electronically. Efficiency. A technology has the ability to bring in this efficiency that also now not only, it's a double-edged sword, because it helps in not only reducing corruption, but increasing efficiency in operations and creating improving the lives of citizens. Because that loophole, the manual nature of how we do our things, is what breeds corruption in some of these areas. So technology has a lot to play and the new emerging tech.
Yeah, that'll be the day, huh? That'll be the day.
Yes.
Although, like Michael said, it'll probably be, the constant thing will be object not found.
But Jeff, I'll tell you something. There are certain small things that we sometimes take for granted. For example, something as simple as an email. And one of the things that we're busy trying to do in government is to push each and every government employee to use official government email. So that then today, I'm seated here as Mike, but if I'm using Gmail as my official email, and I'm talking to you and many other people, if tomorrow I no longer have this job, I still have my Gmail address. So I'll keep transacting as government, and you'll probably never know. And those are some of the things that then perpetuate corruption. The drive for people to use official government email cannot be underscored, because then the minute you're using that email address, you're already representing your organization, and I'm sure it's not just for government, even for you where you are today. So these are some of the things we're also pushing within government to ensure that that standard is met. It is an expectation, a compliance issue, so that then any government official still using Yahoo and Gmail, that should not be the way things should be.
Right.
And these are some of the efforts being driven by the Ministry of ICT, our mother ministry, and ICT authority to ensure compliance, so that then some of these simple acts actually help mitigate corruption.
Absolutely. Michael Ntere, you got the last word now.
Yes.
Moving forward.
Moving forward, Jeff, I'd want to just say and to appeal to all players, to all citizens, that let's work together towards a corruption-free nation. Let's join forces. Let's help each other. Let's do our part. From the media perspective, give us that platform. Help us get the word out there about the morals, about the successes, about the losses, and all that. Keep us in check also, because also the media has that role to keep us in check. As government entities also, let's improve efficiencies in our government institutions, so that now that creates that ripple effect of preventing corruption happening in those particular areas. And together, I believe together, all of us working together, we'll be able to win properly this war against corruption.